Welcome to Mindful Drawing. I'm Robert, and I'll be your guide on this meditation practice that enters a space of mindfulness through the act of drawing. This week, we're just gonna let some stuff out through the hands, really engage with our internal mechanisms, that stabilizing fine motion of the fingers, the kind of suspension and holding of the wrist, the slight jostulation and back and forth of the elbow, and the overall swinging of the shoulder. Work up the chain on both sides, a little bit of comfort, discomfort exercising, but with a very simple, engaging technique of just making some marks, moving the pencil back and forth, letting it really express the energy that we can generate internally out through that graphite onto the paper medium and excite all of our nerves, our muscles, our mind. See if we can't generate a little creativity and fun expression as we map a complex woven territory. If you can, it'd be great to have a few pencils around. Pen will work for this, but I think it might be a little hard on the pen over time, so don't use anything too fancy. I just have some of these art pencils around. A number 2 pencil would be just fine. A light mechanical, again, might break quite a lot with our more intense expression and engagement. So if you can, grab a couple of pencils, sharpen them up. You may have to stop along the way to sharpen them a little bit, so if you have something, feel free to grab it, or just have a few so you can switch like I do. It doesn't really matter what type they are. Maybe a couple of HB, a 2H, anything will work, and each one will provide its own character and layering to the drawing, so it might be fun to have a little variety. I'm just working on a piece of Bristol from a pad, but sketchbook, notebook paper, little back of an envelope will all work just fine. So go ahead and gather your supplies, establish your space, and let's draw together. If you have a pencil handy, go ahead and grab it. I have a few here, various intensities sitting around. I thought today the meditation and exercise would be about getting some energy out onto that paper, getting some thing from the inside, a little wild or chaotic, out and letting it slowly organize into something. What that might be is not determined, so if you see things along the way, feel free to guide towards it, but in general, will mostly be kind of just applying a lot of graphite or ink to the page, kind of intense stroke back and forth. Bring in a bunch of tone, but tone with a little directionality, experimenting with how tone may overlap other segments, working in kind of these straightish line bits, but they can be organized or random around the paper as you see fit. As you begin exploring, it'll be a good exercise of orientation. If you're on a sketchbook or something, feel free to change the orientation of the page in front of you if you have a free piece of paper, or if you're fixed like mine here, then experimenting with different ways of holding the pen or pencil as we go along. And we can always do these slow and cover area with a smoother, calmer energy, or do them very fast and cover area with an intense, more frenetic energy. Something to experiment with throughout the exercise. The way of holding the pencil will come up, the way of moving the arm, and then engagement to the page. And so we build up some dense, layered, kind of interwoven network of these small little scribbles or doodles. So with that in mind, we prepare to enter the page. Just a few breaths to let those hands be ready, be engaged, maybe a little wiggling of the fingers. Make sure you're connected out through those tips. It's a great exercise for using either or both hands here and there, switching off as we're not dealing with precision, but application of material. Noticing your position to the page or the paper, how much freedom of movement do you have? If you can move the body a little side to side, move the hands and shoulders around, just feeling out that territory or that space. And choosing your instrument, holding it in hand for a moment or two, seeing how you might hold it like we're writing, like we're sketching, like we're painting, feeling the weight of it a little, the texture of the surface. A bunch of different pencils here, all different wood, different heaviness or lightness, different sounds. And when you feel ready, finding a place for that first interaction, the marring of the clean white page, the direction. Just going to start with a little light back and forth. Nothing too fast or nothing too slow. Just moving, getting some tone applied there. Now we have a surface that starts a story. We can position ourselves relative to that first mark and begin, again, maybe not knowing quite yet how that story will unfold. Line here, overlapping a little bit at the edges, like a couple pieces of tape or something. Yours could cross completely. That might be the beginning of how we engage on the paper. A little overlap at the ends, starting for me. Follow yours or try different ones. And now the letting out or expressing of energy through intensity, kind of a light, getting familiar with the pencil, a chance, an opportunity to play with how you hold it, to notice it, and bring some attention there, and what feels nice to the hand. I'll let you move the arm freely. Here, the arm doing a lot of the work, the wrist stabilizing, the fingers supporting, and that elbow, shoulder moving the whole instrument back and forth. It can be a little uncomfortable at first, add a lot of tension into the arm. But we'll get used to it, become part of how we're engaging. It's just something for us to bring our attention and awareness to as we add these little scribbles of tone, texturing the surface of the page. And you may notice some habits or repetitions in these. I see that I tend to do about the same size, about the same length each time. An observation that's happening here, once observed, can be engaged or changed, or just watched to see how it works out. After a few of these, of feeling different ways of holding that tool, long, short, rigid, or loose, I'm going to start to increase intensity a little bit of our marks there on the page. You're just starting to move a little bit faster than you were before, seeing if you notice a difference. Doesn't have to be a frenzy, a little more speed, a little bit more intensity perhaps to the pencil or pen pressing against the paper. Make it a little darker edge. Just ramping that up. a little bit each time you choose a new engagement. Perhaps getting a little bit more experimental with orientation. The pencil will allow drawing in pretty much any direction. The pen could be slightly more challenging. Something to bring into the expression that connection and symbiosis between the tool, the medium, and your body. And now we're getting a little bit more on the page. In terms of intensity, you can begin to move between moments a little more quickly, but leaving room for the breath. So before starting each one, taking a nice inhalation, just natural, doesn't have to be deep. Picking the location, orientation, and then engaging through that exhalation and subsequent replenishings. Starting to find an even rhythm there. It's just a lot of material out onto the paper. Breathing in, making the choices of engagement, and letting the hand take over. A little bit faster again. As we increase the speed, we may let go a little bit of control. Feel that we're losing a little bit of control. Things perhaps getting a little messier. Quicker transition. Just a breath. Just enough time to choose where to begin. And maybe a direction to go. Letting the eye as a guide become more prominent in that decision. The mind loosening its grip to the other systems of engagement within the body, giving them a chance to express as well. If you can, if it feels comfortable, increasing the speed even just a little bit more. Faster strokes, things becoming a little bit wobblier, a little bit loopier. A little faster transitions if you can. Up to the point where it no longer serves to make the mark, but finding where that limit is. Your attention to the hand, to the arm, to the breath. Still a replenishing between engagements. Still an awareness of the position of the body and the hand. Still moving through that whole joint chain. Arm, elbow, shoulder, the wrist, just a guide, a bit of a suspension or shock absorber for some of the movements. Paying attention as you transition quickly between each moment, the orientations that challenge the body, moving more up and down for me, out, back, my core feels funny, perhaps moving more against your predominant hand may feel a little awkward. I have some room to maneuver my position. It's still going more in a diagonal, upper left, lower right. Feels much more challenging to me. and encourages an exploration, an adaptation to how we hold the pencil and we hold our body. It's all a practice in what can it do. If I let it start to solve the problems I throw at it quickly, just an orientation and a movement familiar, expressive. The body chain reacts and accommodates. And if you feel comfortable with that, you may take that adaptability, flexibility, and try testing it out on your alternate hand. Maybe the less accurate, less comfortable hand. Maybe you're ambidextrous, it's all the same. But trying to keep up that pace in a new context may bring up novel sensations. Other layers of struggle, reflexes, accuracy. And since all we're doing is making some scribbling marks, they don't need to be too specific. They give us that room to move, that encouragement to play and experiment, as they don't form up necessarily to anything. Though with a technique like this, something that might come into the mind is it could form tones and hatches, varying degrees of light and dark, that over time could build into a larger shape. So the technique may become something else outside of a meditation on that intensity of movement and directionality. And if you are using your other hand, you're starting to enter into its space of engagement, feeling how the pencil is held maybe a little bit differently, feeling the awkwardness, maybe discomfort from the fingers as they're asked to do something that's not part of their normal tasks. Maybe feeling that lighter bit of latency or lag between the mind muscle connection of the arm, trying to tell it to move at that same intensity and pressure, tell it to move in these same practice directions. Just takes a little more effort, a little more focus on that direct action, really giving us that opportunity and space to become more present with our engagement to the page. And keep working to fill in any gaps as the paper gets fuller. Things can keep layering over the top, maybe bringing greater or lesser intensity of pressure. Pushing a little bit harder can make something look like it's on top, obfuscating what's below. Pushing a little bit softer can have something drift into the background, covered by what was there before. with so many moments of expression and engagement, the paper starts to fill up, become quite dense. It may seem just like drawing with the other hand, more complex engagement for the eye, for that ever-present conscious wanting to make decisions. Where can I go next? And in the fluidness of that choice, mapping in this more complex network, you may start leveraging that we have two hands, two parts of the mind connected, using what the body has been learning and developing here to switch back and forth between each mode for the greatest opportunity of positional engagement with the page, building even a little bit more speed perhaps. They swap the pencil between each, some rhythm of drawing. Since we have a good little bit of time left, the paper is probably becoming quite dense. In that now fun, quick, playful space, right, left, starting to modify the duration of engagement or the area of engagement. I'm making smaller but slightly darker marks, covering a little less area but with a little bit more value and intensity, working back through and over the previous zones, but establishing layers, density, new intensities to the map, keeping that quicker pace. And at some point, as I am beginning to experience that pen, if you're using one, may be quite challenged. The pencil may be nearing the end of its available medium. Feel free at any time to take a break if you need to sharpen or grab something else. To change to another type of instrument. To start now that we've gone through many repetitions, let our mind pick up and understand the medium of expression. We can begin to give it new things to play with. Maybe a colored pencil or a marker. Or maybe just a sharpening of the pencil as needed. Much lighter. Sometimes after so much intensity, really leveraging both sides of the nervous system, of the brain, the hands and the body. It might be good to take a short break, let things recalibrate and rest. Let your eye take in something there on the page. Sharpen a pencil or replenish a pen if need be. Take a couple of breaths before entering into a softer period of engagement with the field that is. You may come back to the drawing after a small rest with renewed energy and vigor. Keep that going, part of the expression, or with a softer, more subtle engagement, just a light moving of the hand, a few moments of precision to fill in the gaps found by the eye. Whatever you find is now your potential engagement with the page. Let that guide you for the next couple of minutes. Just quiet drawing. And as we've been at this motion, this engagement mechanism for 20-25 minutes, you may notice some build up of maybe fatigue or just that activation of the various muscles and systems at play. Or maybe everything's nice and warmed up and fresh to go on to start something new. All a bit different, but that noticing as we come closer to the close of the exercise of how your body is feeling, or maybe how your mind is feeling. I always notice a greater amount of concentration fatigue when using my left hand for anything. In the next few moments, choose your last few places of engagement with the paper. Make your last few swatches, graphite or ink. Maybe do a couple of nice, slow, smooth ones. So let both hands come more calmly to the end as they return to their state of rest and presence. And as you feel ready in that, the expression fully worked out onto the page through the action, the hands and arms exercised. Bring your pen or pencil to rest. You bring the hands to rest, probably outside of the drawing if you've got this much graphite tone on it, but why not just let them sit in that space, rest in front of you. Take a few breaths, and now the quiet stillness. Notice the buzzing of the fingertips, the tingling of the arms. As you take a few relaxing breaths, so much expelled, expressed, let out onto that page, and so much still activated and ready within the hands, that in between and being present and relaxed and being engaged and excited to move on. See if you can take that out with you, whatever you do next in your day, and enjoy. It's kind of fun as I look back over the drawing, the jumble and mess, a few patterns emerging here and there, but mostly just a nice calming disorganization. Right? The leaves through a tree, Subtle bits of white paper still fluttering through, moments of high intensity and expression, others of soft, feathery background. A complex territory lets the eye wander, lets the mind match things it sees, becomes too much, and so we let go a little bit, soften our critical engagement, and just open to the meandering through that dense field. But I can tell the difference between the different pencils, things from a random bin that's been collected over time, something from a brand unknown to me, airport, something sharpened away to almost nothing, an old pencil from my undergraduate years, and a nice Faber-Castell 2H art pencil. Even this big HB thick thing sitting nearby as an opportunity. They all make different values, different tones. Their graphite slightly different, their weights, their woods, their textures, the shape of the pencil, all a little different, unique to the hand. You can begin to see that difference, that heterogeneity of the marks, even though one person with maybe two minds, two hands, brought them into being there, they all take on their own character and create a more subtle, shimmering effect, that organic texture of the page. Well, we could read in whatever we like to a drawing. This a 20 to 30 minute exercise of channeling expression and energy out, of really just feeling through the medium. Maybe makes a big mess of chaos, maybe starts to form into something you recognize, and perhaps becomes a technique that lets you see with energy, see intensely, and enjoy making a few marks without too much consequence, but with the potential to generate so much more. I thank you for joining. These episodes come usually each week on Wednesday on YouTube, so if you're interested, subscribe for more. Give it a thumbs up if you like it, and leave me a comment. Let me know what you found through your engagement with the techniques and your time spent present here in the act of drawing as you practice your mindfulness through this creative medium. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a fun week where you can take these exercises with you and bring creativity wherever you need it. Thank you for joining, and draw well.